Good morning, my friends. I want to report a really sick, sad, and twisted story. This is just in on LifeSite News. I just read the story, and these stories tend to come in every, I don't know, way too often. Just way too often you see stories like this, but unfortunately, when you got things like this happening, when you have a certain sort of paradigm parroted over and over again in our society, you get crap like this, and you get constantly the dehumanization of life. This is what happens. So the story is horrific parents punched their 30-week unborn baby to death. Charges unlikely. So this was said in California. Um, the parents of a baby girl who died of catastrophic injury shortly after birth have been accused of deliberately killing her, according to court documents. The unnamed couple arrived at Kern Medical in Bakersfield, California, to give birth on the 24th of May. The woman was about 30 weeks pregnant. Horrendous attack. Medical staff found that the baby girl was suffering from a fractured skull and a spinal injuries, traumatic injuries that led to the child's death shortly afterwards. They also noticed severe bruising on the woman's stomach, and suspicious of her explanation that she'd fallen while mopping, called the police. During the police interview, the woman admitted that, having decided together they didn't want the baby, she and her boyfriend agreed for him to beat her in an attempt to kill the baby. Police said she told them, excuse me, police say she told them he struck her stomach with his fist at least 10 times and squeezed her, after which she stopped feeling the baby move. In a separate interview, police say that the boyfriend denied hurting the woman or the unborn child. But was it illegal? Bakersfield police are investigating, and the district attorney's office is also reviewing the case. However, even though the baby was viable and her parents allegedly beat her to death, it is not clear that the couple can be charged with breaking California law. California Penal Code defines murder as the unlawful killing of a human being or fetus with malice afterthought, or aforethought, afterthought. I don't know how to say that word. However, there is an exception for abortion. The law states that murder charges will not be pursued if the act was solicited, aided, abetted, or consented to the mother of the fetus. Consented to by the mother of the fetus. Local defense attorney Mark Anthony Raimondo said, in the state of California, a person who was pregnant, still pregnant, can terminate the pregnancy almost by any means and not be held liable criminally for their actions. A baby is a baby if she's wanted or not. Jennifer Bloomquist of pro-choice Kern County called the legal situation a gray area and called for greater access and funding for abortion. Mary Lee Schreider, I think that's what that says. Mary Lee Schreider, executive director of Right to Life Kern County, said, I wanted to burst into tears. It's pretty sickening to read. She said the father must be held accountable. Even if she thought of it, what kind of man would say, yeah, I'll punch you in the stomach until the baby is dead? Right to Life also pointed out inconsistencies in the law. When a pregnant mother is killed in a murder or a drunken driving crash, the government charges defendants with double murder, ascribing personhood to the baby. So the only difference in this case is the mother didn't want the baby, Ms. Schreider said. The baby is a human being, or she's not. The baby is a human being, or she's not. The fact that she's wanted or not is not relevant. It doesn't make her less human. She hopes the district attorney pursues murder charges. On moral grounds of decency, there's no gray areas here, she said. So I have several thoughts about this. Um, I mean, you can all imagine what a lot of my thoughts are regarding this, but a few that immediately come to mind is the fact that, um, as the article pointed out, it is true that there's an inconsistency in the law. Basically, you say uh, if someone else causes the death of your unborn, you can be charged with homicide or murder. But if you consent to someone else doing it, then it's a problem. If you consent to someone else doing it, it's not a problem. I mean, then the baby's not human or the baby has no rights if the mother gives consent for someone else to kill it. You see how that works? Um, that's just like saying um, a parent can not kill a parent can kill their unborn. They can kill their newborn child. A parent can kill their newborn child, and um, if they give consent, like if someone else were to kill their newborn child without their consent, they could be charged with murder. But the parents can do it because not only is their child, but they can let somebody else do it if they give consent. You see how stupid that is? And I don't care what stage of pregnancy we're talking about here, but we're not simply talking about uh, 7 weeks in. We're talking about the established medical point after the viability has already been established. The general medical point of viability is 24 weeks. Here we are 6 weeks after that, and they're saying it's very unlikely that they're going to be charged. But you see how sick this is? This is crazy. But pro-abort logic protects this type of crap. Oh, the mother consented to the boyfriend just punching her in the stomach and doing all these things, strangling her, and all this just brutal crap. And they could just walk away. Nothing happens to the boyfriend or nothing because she consented. And definitely nothing happens to her because she ordered it. It doesn't matter what means that you use or how you're going to terminate. It doesn't matter what means you use. If the law is saying that the mother has consent, and it doesn't matter whether it's done in a clinic or it's done outside of a clinic, do something as sick as this. I mean, even in a clinic, it doesn't matter if you surgically chop your unborn kid to death in a clinic or you do it outside of a clinic with her freaking sick boyfriend. Either way, it's still wrong. But since the law says the woman has to give consent, since she consented, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to any of them. But this is pro-abortion logic here. Pro-abortion logic protects this type of crap. And then that I think her name is Bloomquist or something like that. That pro-abortion lady wanted to call that a gray area. Yeah, her name is Jennifer Bloomquist. She wanted to call that a gray area. Are you serious? That's a gray area? A lot of pro-aborts like to say things like, "Oh, well, stories like this generally don't happen in reality." Because like you can give hypothetical scenarios, like just like this, which would otherwise have been hypothetical scenarios. Like, what if she orders someone to abuse her, to kill her child, to terminate her pregnancy? Then they'll say something like, "That's a hypothetical. You can't argue something like that. That's not based in reality." But truth is stranger than fiction, my friends, and in reality, the truth is crap like this is definitely not unusual. When you give hypothetical situations to attempt to illustrate the absurdity and the evil for the abortionist, chances are you're probably not giving just a mere hypothetical. Chances are you're illustrating something at some point that happened in reality. This is just beyond sick, okay? But the pro-abortion laws is going to protect both of these people. Nothing's going to happen to any of these people more than likely. You punch your unborn baby to death, and nothing's going to happen. But if that same unborn would have happened to escape the womb, and he did the same thing, then he would have been in jail. And then I'm not saying nothing would have happened to the mother if she would have ordered it, but chances are, if they would have done this exact same thing when the baby was born, then he would have been the greatest likely to face charges. If she would have faced anything, it wouldn't have been as severe. I would venture to say she probably would have gotten off like some sort of misdemeanor or something, or maybe a very light sentence, like 2 or 3 years probation or something. But the man would have definitely did some hard time at the very least. Well, are you serious? This is a great area, and you got pro-aborts out there that want to say, well, we can draw the line of viability. We can have that cut off right there. But you got pro-aborts who consistently, and I think it's a very consistent thing to say, when you justify killing in a womb, then it doesn't matter whether it's viable or not. Um, the logical slippery slope is viability does not matter. That pro-abortion lady tried to flip this into a gray area, even at the viability stage. But you know what? As sick as I think what she did was, as sick as I think her position is, the fact of the matter is, it's a consistent position. Because no matter how you slice it, no matter um, what sort of justifications you give or anything like this, you can't avoid the inevitable logical slippery slope. If you justify abortion pre-viability, if you're being logically consistent, you can't avoid it uh, post-viability or when the viability stage arrives. It's a logically consistent position, because all you're doing is you're just begging a question. You're just saying that arbitrarily, for some reason, it's okay to kill the baby when it's not viable, but when viability comes, in my personal opinion, arbitrarily, the baby is imbued with rights of some sort to live or to not be killed. Really? Are you serious? Now I can say, whoa, there's no problem now. On what basis do you say there's no problem? Other than it's your personal opinion? You have no justification to say at this point, oh, well, now there has to be a limit. Now the baby has the right not to be killed. Because I just say that. There's no justification there. You're just saying that viability is the standard. You have nothing to argue. You assume your premise before you even begin to prove it. You have not. All you saying, well, it can survive outside the womb. Therefore, we should give it rights. Therefore, it should be imbued with rights, personhood, humanity, or whatever you want to call it. This is See, this is the problem when you have a society that constantly dehumanizes life. This is the problem when you have a society who says over and over again that choice is paramount. And notice the first thing that pro-abort lady said. One of the first things that pro-abort lady said when looking at this case was that, "Oh, we need greater access to abortion." It's not no consideration on whether there's an inconsistency in the law, no consideration on whether anything these parents did was wrong, no consideration on any of that. Nope, we need greater abortion laws or greater access to abortion, I should say. That pro-abort was just looking at this, as a political tool and a profitable tool. It's clear. All because of this. This is the reason why you should have greater access to abortion, because we don't want we don't want people to have cases like punching women in the stomach. Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? I mean, where's the pro-abortion crowd going to come out and defend the rights of the girl who died? This was a girl who was killed. Okay, where are they coming out defending her rights? These people claim to be the champion of women and girls, and they claim to be for the rights of uh, the female sex and gender. They the ones who claim to champion their rights all day. Where are they going to come out and saying how sick this was? Nope, because he did it in the womb. There's no problem. You're not a girl or you're not a woman worthy of defending until you pop out the womb. How stupid is that? That's how anybody can think that's even a serious argument is beyond me. But this is the insanity of these people. This is what these people do. This is how these people think. This is sick and twisted beyond belief. How can there possibly be a gray area in something as sick as this? How could there possibly be a gray area? I mean, there was no other consideration about any more important matters of things of greater priority. Nope, just more abortion. And you mean to tell me these people aren't pro-abortion? Oh, we're just pro-choice, not pro-abortion. Well, hello. That doesn't seem to ring very well with this lady. If you were so pro-choice and not pro-abortion, then why in the world would that be the first thing you say? And then this is not some isolated case. Way too many times when I've seen how pro-choicers approach these issues, they almost always direct it to, well, they should have a greater access to abortion, or maybe uh, abortion should be taxpayer funded, or um, maybe abortion agencies should make it easier for women to get abortions so they don't have to face uh, tough situations like this and make horrific decisions like this one. So then it says you're pro-birth, not pro-life. You need to realize that. Well, here's the thing. Even if that is 100% true, which it isn't, that wouldn't make my position wrong. I can accept every premise of what you just said right there and still have a 100% defensible position. So, I mean, the fact that you want to throw out this little stupid platitude, that doesn't really mean anything. Or not a platitude, but a little buzz phrase. The fact that you want to throw your little pro-abortion talking point, your little pro-abortion buzz phrase, that don't mean a thing to me. He says, not a thing. The kid suffers and you just move on. Now, I didn't say that that was my actual position. I didn't say that's what I actually advocated. You see, you're too clueless to actually listen to what I'm arguing. I didn't say what my actual position is. I didn't say what I advocated for or what I do or don't do for born children. I just said if I accepted every premise of your argument, that wouldn't make my position wrong. Like, that's what you do. That's what he's saying. Like, what do you know about what I do? What do you know about my private life? See, this is the red herring attempts that these pro-aborts like to do. They like to redirect and misdirect and obstruct the conversation to other red herring areas because they can't actually justify their position. What I do outside the internet is really none of your business. I don't divulge my life outside the internet for obviously good reasons. I don't ask anybody to divulge their business outside the internet, and I won't divulge mine. Okay, this moron. I'm removing this idiot. I ain't gonna have someone come up in here making accusations of what I do or don't do, just talking trash, just talking garbage, because you don't want to focus on the relevant issues. But like I said, even if I did absolutely nothing for any born children, that wouldn't mean that abortion is correct. Wait a minute. The contract says, seems like you have an attitude. Well, if someone was making accusations and saying stupid stuff, what's the issue with me getting an attitude? There's a difference between just general anger and justified frustration or justified anger. I was just reacting towards the stupidity of his comment. Do you want to go back to exactly what I said, kind drunk? Do you want to go back to what I said? I said, let's assume that I don't do nothing. Let's assume that I don't do anything. Does that show that abortion is right? Does that show that abortion should be legally permitted? Yes or no? I want you to answer that simple question for me. If I did absolutely nothing at all, I didn't give a crap about born children, let's say that was the truth. Does that show that abortion is right? Exactly. He said it doesn't. I'm assuming that means he's saying that it doesn't show that abortion is right. Okay, so what's your point? Are you trying to investigate what I do personally to see if I'm acting in an inconsistent way? Because you can just look for some sort of moral issue, which you wouldn't have no basis to justify that anyway from your atheistic position, but that's an entirely different conversation. Slim Jim says, I come back and all these comments got deleted. Well, I put this dude in timeout. So when I put someone in timeout, their comments naturally get deleted. That's all that happened. I mean, I would prefer that the comments stay up if you put somebody in timeout. But I mean, YouTube built that feature in, like once you time somebody out, their comments automatically get removed. People need real help, not a make-believe God. Well, what do you think God's make-believe or not is beside the point, because I went over this with you before. People can believe in God and still actively do things at the same time. Whether you believe the God is not real or not is of no relevance, especially if there's work being done and there is work being done. You look at uh, the vast majority of churches and crisis pregnancy centers. A lot of these are centered around faith-based organizations and faith-based ideals out there doing real work, and they still believe in God at the same time. Funny how two things can be done at once like that. That's interesting, isn't it? So, I mean, if you show me the vast majority of the secular community that's offering this real help to born children, to women who get in these um, emotionally difficult circumstances, if you show me the secular community that's donating their time, their money, their resources to doing these things, I've seen individual secular persons do these sorts of things. But as far as like uh, whole established secular groups and organizations, they by far, are outnumbered by those who are faith based. And you're just gonna get timed out again, Solar Thunder. You're a moron. So looks like true empiricism is in the chat. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. But for those who are just tuning in, I read this story about this horrific instance of these parents. Basically, the mother's 30 weeks pregnant, and she ordered her boyfriend to punch her in the stomach and kill her unborn child. It's really twisted, sad story. I'm gonna have the link in the description. Uh, well, I'm gonna put the link in the description so you guys can check it when this hangout is over. But I'll also put it in the chat here so you guys can read it. But when you live in a society that constantly is peddling this paradigm of you're not really dealing with a human, or even if it is a human, it doesn't supersede the mother's rights and so on and so forth. It's a parasite, blah, 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 blah. It, it's no wonder people react the way that they do. It's no wonder people do things like this and they say, well, you know what? If the law says it's okay with her and she can terminate her pregnancy, then why in the world do I gotta go into an abortion clinic? Why in the world do I gotta pay? Why should it cost me anything? We'll just do it ourselves. We can find all sorts of sick ways to do this crap. I've heard of a story a while back. I saw a story a while back that a woman tried to kill her unborn child with rat poison. Now you see crap like this with this boyfriend by her own consent, punching her in the stomach over and over again. This is insane. It's absolutely insane. Psychopath atheist. He says, now should I do like you Christians do and discredit this website because it's a Christian website? Or should I just take the article at face value, unlike y'all do? Uh, I don't really know who you're talking to or who is discrediting sources simply because of where they come from. I wouldn't advise anybody do that. I don't care where the source is, where the article is sourced from. That doesn't matter. That's the genetic fallacy. If you're going to look at any source, whether it's Planned Parenthood, whether it's pro-life league or anything like that, you can't discredit something simply because it's sourced on a particular page that may not align with your ideological views, your political views, your moral views, your spiritual views, things like this. Just because they may hold views that you personally disagree with does not have any effect on the information. You have to investigate the information and deal with the source, article, or whatever on those merits. So, I mean, you seem to be generalizing psychopath atheists. That seems to be just a ridiculous generalization to me. I mean, I certainly don't do that, and I know several Christians who wouldn't do that. So uh, maybe you should think about talking to people individually instead of generalizing. The Slim Jim says, I guess the question is valid. What's the difference between what this couple did and abortion? Does the difference matter? Well, uh, it doesn't really matter according to legal statutes. There is no real difference. I mean, the woman consented to this unborn being killed, and the only thing is the difference between a licensed medical personnel performing the procedure and just her boyfriend doing it outside of an abortion clinic. That's literally the only difference. If the unborn has no right to live, or if the unborn has no right to be killed, then the means in which the killing happens is irrelevant. That's a logically consistent position. And I think on many levels, it may even be a legally consistent position. He says, so you don't use the whole argument of that don't count because you got that information from like evilbible.com. That's true. You're absolutely right. It doesn't count simply because it's from evilbible.com. You can't say, well, it's from evilbible.com, therefore it's false. Uh, I think evilbible.com has been shown to be discredited over and over and over again. I think evilbible.com is one of the worst websites you can go to try to find problems with the Bible, if not the worst. But having said that, though, just solely saying it's from evil.com, therefore it's false, that's illogical to do. You have to look at the information for what the information is. if they're going to cite contradictions, you look at you look at the alleged contradiction, and then you say, okay, well, evilbible.com thinks this is a contradiction, but they forgot to cross-reference this with this passage. They forgot to do exegesis and look at the background of what's really going on. They forgot to consider what the perspective of the writers were when they were writing this information and things like this. You start to do that sort of investigative work, and then you put it all together to see if it's really a contradiction. Now, I mean, it'll get to a point to where they deliberately do this stuff over and over again, and you can maybe start to ask the question: are they deliberately not doing exegesis? Are they deliberately ignoring cultural context? Are they deliberately ignoring the intent of the writers of the passage and things like this? If they, start developing a regular reputation of flat out ignoring all these criterion, then you might be able to say, okay, then they're probably not credible. But just simply saying, oh, their face value wrong because it's sourced from evilbible.com, that in and of itself is a logical fallacy. He says, I don't even use that website. I honestly only hear Christians mention that website, to be honest, but I always find it interesting to say that just because a website uses information don't make the info false. And I agree. Simply for the information being on a website doesn't make it false. It doesn't necessarily make it true. That's the other part of that. It doesn't necessarily make it true, but you can't just from the outset just say, oh, it's from evilbible.com or it's from Apologetics Press or it's from there. Therefore, it's false. It doesn't matter if a Christian does it to discredit it from evilbible.com or if an atheist does something to discredit it from Apologetics Press. In both cases, it's a fallacy. You got to look at the information for what it is and evaluate that on its own independent merits, not from the source. But anyway, Grand Ultimate Atheist says, so what do you do in the case of ectopic pregnancy? Well, ectopic pregnancies have been long considered, long looked at by the pro-life community. And if you look at the position of pro-life obstetricians and gynecologists, you'll find that in those sorts of cases, those procedures cannot be defined as an abortion, at least in the same context as the deliberate termination of pregnancy. In those situations, you are dealing with possibly losing two lives. So there's a principle called the principle of double effect, which states that it's better to save one life than to lose two. If the mother dies, then the unborn child is naturally going to die too. So in those instances, you have to focus on saving the mother's life. According to these obstetricians, they don't even refer to those cases as abortions at all. But if you want to be technical about it, abortion is the termination of pregnancy. So if you want to say that them simply terminating the pregnancy is an abortion, then so be it. But it's not abortion in the sense that, uh, well, a woman just wanted to just deliberately terminate her pregnancy to kill her child or whatever to stop being pregnant. It's not anything like that. So he says, so in some cases you are pro-abortion. Got it. Call it any name you want. It's abortion. Um, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it chili cheese sandwiches. You can call it cheesecake. You can call it Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't really care what label you put on it. It's the intent which is relevant. The intent is what's relevant here, not the label you put on it. So again, it's just another distraction. You can't compare a case to where um, a woman is about to die if this pregnancy continues, which means her unborn baby is going to die too. You can't compare that as the same thing as just a woman just conceiving. I don't know, in consensual sex, and she's getting pregnant at an inconvenient time. Then she goes and gets an abortion. It's not the same thing, and they don't even call at least certain obstetricians that deal with those situations don't even refer to those as abortions. So uh, if you have an argument against anyone, have an argument against those medical professionals, those medical personnel, not against me. I'm just telling you what they say. Don't shoot the messenger here. Just that's all I'm telling you. So yeah, and ectopic pregnancy is not it's no excuse for an abortion. It doesn't justify the deliberate killing of your unborn child or the deliberate intention to end your pregnancy because you don't want to be pregnant. So what is people in the chat saying now? Uh, Antonio doesn't understand what a ectopic pregnancy is. I think, dude, it's when um uh, a pregnancy is occurring outside the mother's uterus, dude. Like I've talked about this in length in the past many times. Like a mother can even have her pregnancy developing in her fallopian tubes. So yes, I do know what an ectopic pregnancy is, guy. He's been talking about this for 6 months. Give up, man. Mm. He's grand old man. He says, I'm not gonna push it, Doc. He bans folks who push too hard. I ban folks who act like a bunch of clowns, who act like a bunch of idiots and morons. That's who I get rid of. I don't get rid of people who have legitimate questions or want to engage in legitimate, challenging dialogue. There was only one person who's been put in timeout. So I got a psychopath. I don't agree on basically anything he says, but I appreciate that he asks honest questions more often than not. And he challenges my position from an honest foundation. I appreciate that. So he's still here. So, I mean, I don't just ban people just for the heck of it. I ban people if I think they're being stupid. Doc Savage says, my niece had an ectopic pregnancy and an abortion to save her life. Was that okay? I think I explained that in detail. I mean, uh, again, it goes back to how abortion is defined um, by the simple medical definition of termination of pregnancy. You can't say all abortion procedures are the same if that's how you define it. But having said that, I'm just telling you there are medical personnel that say they don't even refer to that as an abortion. So when you look at a topic pregnancy, they don't even call that an abortion. I'm just telling you what the medical professionals say, what medical professionals have said. And I understand that not all medical professionals say that. I get that. But there are uh, a substantial amount of professionals out there who do say exactly what I just told you. So you can't compare that as the same as getting an abortion because you can see that an inconvenient point if you had like consensual intercourse or something. So there is a moral justification for terminating pregnancy in ectopic situations. If a medical personnel watching the pregnancy, in their honest expert opinion, this woman's life is in danger, then the priority has to be to save her life. But that's not a justification to say, well, okay, they saved her life here, therefore all abortions are justified, therefore abortion in general is fine. Like, no. You know, a lot of these, I come across a lot of pro-aborts who uh, say that, these things should be approached with gray areas, and things should be looked at case by case. Yeah, I'm getting these sorts of arguments about ectopic pregnancy as if to somehow push it to abortion in general. Like, if you're going to look at things case by case, then you need to look at stuff like ectopic pregnancy and stop trying to directly or indirectly connect it with general abortion. And I'm glad she's doing well, Doc Savage. I'm glad she's doing fine. That's great to hear. And I, I'm not going to say this again. I'm not going to say this again. I've said it several times. I think you know my position on that is, Doc, I explained it like 2, 3 times now already. I said it just depends on how abortion is defined. I'm telling you how abortion is defined and what medical personnel has said. That's all I'm telling you. And I don't think any more I said can make it any clearer or change anything I said. But Dragnot is in the chat. He says, I'm unaware of any medical professional that would disagree. Uh, Removal of ectopic tissue is considered an abortion. Uh, well, I have to give you some sources after this is over. You take a look at them and you make up your own conclusions. So we got Thalo in the chat. What's up, Thalo? Good to see you. You have never killed anybody, Antonio, because you know the Bible is bullcrap. That's what David Allen says. I'm not going to even dignify that word response. Dragna says, I'm aware of any alternate definition of abortion other than the removal of fertilized tissue. Well, I'm not saying that there's a ton of definitions for abortion, but all I'm telling you is what medical professionals who look at these cases have said. Now, if you disagree with them, that's fine, but you have to email those people and you can ask them questions. All right, this David Allen cat is just gonna get timed out. He's just saying stupid stuff now. They always say they'll have sources later, and they'll never produce any. I'll tell you what, Soul of Thunder. Um, I'll have the sources listed in the description. When this hangout is over, you'll be able to see those sources for yourself. Just do it now. I'm in the middle of several things right now. I'm not able to. I'm not able to really just grab like just these things right off now. I'm doing several things right now. That's why I'm saying wait till the hangout is over. And if you're gonna tell me how I should, when or when not to put sources up, I don't owe you any timetable to put any sources up. He said this, I'd not like to know who they are and why they have their own personal definition. I can grab a physician's desk reference and find the standard definition. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that they have their own personal definition. I think there's a lot more to it than, just looking at what the general medical term is. I think there's a lot more to it than just that. But I do agree with you on one level that the general medical term is an abortion is the termination of pregnancy, and it generally doesn't matter how that's happened. It generally doesn't matter whether it's through active means such as a surgical procedure like abortion or through even spontaneous means of the body. They call those literally they call those spontaneous abortions. So John Lee, I don't even know if that's the same John Lee. John loves Jesus, John Lee 2K. I don't even know if that's the same one. Let me check out his profile. Okay. Pretty sure that's a troll account. Well, I don't know. I'll just keep an eye on it. He said, I'm conflating miscarriage with abortion. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not conflating anything. I'm just telling you what uh, the the literal definition of abortion is, and the general medical term or the literal medical definition of abortion is the termination of pregnancy. And included under that definition is spontaneous abortion and, your average surgical procedure. I'm not conflating anything. I'm just telling you what is categorized under that definition. They include those under that definition. We can distinguish them. Clearly, we can distinguish them, but that doesn't mean I'm conflating them by simply telling you what's included under the definition. So, some just says, you may not owe anyone a time frame, but it speaks volumes of your sincerity if they are readily available. And I say this. Um, well, that's your personal opinion. Quite honestly, I really don't care whether you think I'm sincere or not, or whether others think I'm sincere or not. They can read them when the hangout is over. So, I mean, that's a totally different issue. All right, see, now it's still done. There's just, see, I'll just block you entirely. That's why you're able to come back after a certain amount of time. Because you just keep coming back just to talk stupid. At this point, if you have a problem with things that I say and you're just going to talk dumb in my chat, then don't even come on my page. I mean, that's just common sense. I mean, for crying out loud, it's just people want to just come just to talk crap, not because they actually have anything decent to say or anything productive to say. Yeah, I was very, very confident that that was some sort of yep, he's an imposter. Thanks for pointing him out, John Lee. John loves Jesus, I should say. I had a very good feeling he was an imposter because the one that usually participates on my channel already has a spanner. and that account was made in August 2017 or something. I had a good feeling that was a troll account. Don't come in here with these troll accounts, seriously. The Slim Jim says if you're trying to convince someone of your position, you ought to care about sincerity and good faith arguments. And I do. And I told you the sources are going to be there. And if I tell you the sources are going to be there, then the sources are going to be there. Whether I put them forth to you immediately or 2 days from now, that has nothing to do with what I just told you. I mean, I told you that the sources are going to be in the description. So the fact that I put the sources there at all is telling you how sincere I am. I mean, I'm not going to argue this. I'm seriously not going to even argue this point. This is really petty at this point. And they say you're trying to convince someone. Like, here's the thing: whether someone is convinced on my position is not so much what I'm interested in, because I mean, there are people who actually agree with my position, but still say that abortion should still be justified in the laws. I mean, there are people who say God exists, but hate him and won't bow the knee and submit their lives to him. Those are missile theists. So I mean, whether they actually agree with my position in and of itself is irrelevant to me. Will they advocate to defend life? That's the relevant issue, not whether they agree with me or not necessarily. Abortion, defined by Williams Obstetrics as the interruption of pregnancy before viability at the request of the woman, but not for reasons of impaired maternal health or fetal disease. Fine. I have no problem with that definition, but you simply posting the definitions up, it, I don't know why you're even doing this right now. Like, seriously, you posting the definitions up really has no bearing against the fact that there are medical professionals who said that they don't look at things like termination in life-threatening cases as an abortion. Like, I don't even disagree with those definitions. I don't really care whether they are actually. You can say that there are abortions, but that don't mean the intents behind them are the same. I don't really care what the label they put or what they use. It doesn't matter. What the important thing is what the intents are. That's the issue. Do you want people to agree with you? I mean, I think on a certain level, people would like to see if people are putting forth an argument or something. I think people would like them to see their side of the issue. I think that's what everybody would like to see. So I mean, so that I think that's everybody that is putting forth a position. They would like everyone to see where they're coming from. Or they would like this. I think they would like on some level for people to be persuaded to their side. But I mean, that's everybody though. I think. I don't really get the point behind your question though. There are 4,263 peer-reviewed papers under the search term ectopic pregnancy/abortion. Uh, Look, I don't know why I gotta explain something. So this is not hard to understand here. He says I'm not sure why intents have a. I don't know why intents have medical relevance. All right, look. The reason why intents have medical relevance is because even in the law, even how people evaluate stuff legally, they look at things from an intent perspective. Like if someone else causes a woman an abortion without her consent, yeah, she technically had an abortion, but what was it caused by someone else without her consent? And they're legally liable for it. Now, if she did it herself, if she went and consented to the procedure herself, then nothing happens. She's not charged or anything. But if someone else does it, they're charged. That's why the intent is relevant, because even in the law, they look at it that way. So, from a medical reference, uh, I think a similar principle would apply. Like, I don't know personally why these people have said that they don't look at those as abortions. Maybe, and I'm just speculating here, but my speculation would be that they're looking at abortion from a common frame of reference, a common frame of reference, like most of them, which happen because a woman is just not ready to have a baby at X time, and she goes and gets the procedure done. Most of those happen in the case of where she's just ready to not have a child, not because her life is on the line, not because she got raped or something. But I think what they're doing is they're looking at the most common cases and saying, okay, these are the most common cases of abortion procedures which occur. And they're saying, okay, since these are the most common, this is how we're looking at abortion. But when you have a woman whose life is on the line, those are much more rare cases. And they're probably saying, okay, we aren't going to put these in the same category as most of those other ones. We're going to make a distinction here. Again, this is me speculating, but I think that's probably why there are medical professionals who have done that. So, like I said before, for those who have done that, maybe you should contact them, email them, or something. You can find out why. Okay. It says medical decisions are made for a variety of reasons, mostly because one's health is impaired. The scenario where a woman's not ready mentally, financially, or etc. Yet this is irrelevant. I mean, there's really not much more I need to explain on this. I think it's really an issue of semantics at this point. I mean, because look, just because abortion is defined as the termination of pregnancy doesn't mean that every termination of pregnancy is the same. Again, spontaneous abortion happens. That's miscarriage, but that doesn't mean it's the same as going into an abortion clinic when you're not ready to have a kid and then terminating in that sense. It's not the same thing. So I mean, like you generally can't compare a woman who's had a miscarriage to a woman who's just walked into an abortion clinic and just had their child removed. That's not the same thing. Even though both are technically categorized under the abortion terminology, they're not the same thing. You got to use a bit of nuance here in those regards. I know, see, I don't know why. See, I don't know why I'm not going to continue beating my head against the wall to explain simple concepts. And I'm not claiming anybody who said that they are the same. The only thing I'm saying is these things are defined under abortion, under the term abortion, but they are distinct for very, very good reasons. All I'm saying is simply putting the label on abortion on something does not indeed make it the same as other sorts of cases. I'm not saying you saying that they are the same. I'm just saying they don't make them the same. So again, I don't care what term you want to use. It doesn't have anything to do with the intention or what those particular nuances are. So again, you can use abortion, you can use Sonic the Hedgehog, you can use uh, ice cream. I don't care what label you put on it. What is the intention? That's the relevant thing here. Well, I'm on a library computer. I love to talk about this all day, but I'm about to run out of time. And looks like we had the Trobos who come up in here, but whatever. Uh, I think I made my point, and I'll talk about maybe this story or some other story some other time. Thanks for watching, you guys. See you guys later. God bless.